What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast. It is the Bills joint practice against the Chicago Bears episode of the show. I just got back. Ryan, I was telling all of our insiders, there's a little bit of a cluster over there. We didn't have anywhere to work, so I had to get back to the hotel so we can get into all of the observations from today's practice. And it was an absolutely loaded practice. You could feel the energy in the air. The Bills finally able to kind of get out there. A lot of their first team off. I mean, Josh Allen didn't play in the first preseason game. So to get out there against the Chicago Bears, get to kind of go against another team, you could feel the energy and all the parts of it, defensively, offensively, and in special teams. We're obviously brought to you by Amtrak, as always, and Amtrak's Empire Service offers frequent departures daily from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, all the way to New York City. Stops include Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, Schenectady, Albany, Hudson, Poughkeepsie, Rhinecliff, and more. No middle seats, plenty of legroom, reclining seats as well. You have free Wi-Fi and no baggage fees. Riding Amtrak is an experience, a fun and relaxing way to get to your destination. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, and it sounds like it was a great day for the Bills and the Bears. I saw some Bears beat reporters talking about how the Bills matched the energy that Chicago had, where that wasn't the case 1 week ago when they had a joint practice with the Dolphins.
It really was. I mean, from every phase of football for the Bills in this practice today, it almost felt like their response level to everything that the Chicago Bears was bringing was consistently at 100, right? And we all read those reports from last week with the Dolphins and everything that went on there last week. Today, it didn't matter where it happened. And it's funny, I thought the Bills' offense started pretty slowly, especially on 7-on-7. I mean, Josh Allen had a couple of poor passes, was picked off a couple of times. I felt like this could go the Bears' way. I mean, there was fans in attendance, a lot of Bears fans there. There were some Bills fans there as well. But you felt like that could really get things going in their direction. And once we kind of turned things over to 11-on-11, it felt like the Bills were a completely different team. There were some really big plays on both sides of the ball that we'll get to today.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. And, the Josh Allen interceptions, just to kind of put some minds at ease. Again, this was from a Bears media perspective. They said it looked like Josh was trying to throw passes into tight windows. That's the time to do it. And the Bears defensive backs and safeties and cornerbacks were really up to task.
I want to start with we just mentioned Amtrak. Let's get to our Amtrak hype train player of the week right off the jump, and it's got to go to Keon Coleman, man. Like, I tweeted it out just now, a little clip after practice, get a chance to catch up with him, and he downplayed the significance of it, right? Like, he's definitely coming into his own, I think, from a confidence level perspective. But if we're just talking about a player who is continuously finding ways to make plays, even when maybe it doesn't go his way. Like early in practice, 7-on-7, Allen, like working on a timing throw, tries to go his way. He falls on the play, ball goes incomplete. A lot of young receivers might struggle coming back from that. And I thought the way that Keon battled back from that to make a couple of big plays down the stretch, had a couple of touchdowns. The one in particular that I'm giving him this award for was spectacular, Ryan. Like, a double move where I can't remember the wide receiver's number or the defensive back's number, because Coleman ended up dropping him with a double move. It looked like he was kind of coming inside and quickly shifted back to the outside. And it was so fast and quick that the defensive back goes on the ground. Coleman puts his left hand up. Now, Josh Allen being Josh Allen, he already recognized the play. So he had already anticipated where Coleman was going to be. He threw the ball towards the end zone. Coleman throws his hand up, right, as he kind of beats this guy and has to turn his head around to locate the football. As he turns his head around, he realizes, oh, man, I got some work to do. I got to get downfield to try to make a play on this ball. He turns it up another gear, runs down the ball, extends with one hand, brings in the ball with one hand. It was an absolutely spectacular touchdown. The entire offense came down to celebrate with him. It was really one of those truly remarkable plays. And again, this is the version of Keon Coleman that I think led the Bills to approach the position the way that they did. I feel like a broken record. We keep talking about this, but he was really good today. And it's not just against the Bills, right? In the practice setting. I know he's been able to go iron versus iron against Christian Benford, but this was against another team where he really gave this Chicago Bears defense some trouble once they got into 11 on 11.
Yeah, we might have to rename the award the Amtrak Keon Coleman hype, train player of the week, because he's won this thing at least 3 times, Matt. He's had an unbelievable summer, and to see him go up against another team and do this is what encourages me the most. We saw on Hard Knocks on Tuesday, Josh Allen talking to the receivers, specifically Keon, play big. And it's one thing he's done really well this summer on contested passes near the end zone or in the end zone. But the play you're talking about is something completely different, where he wins with his route running, where he gets a guy, on skates, so to speak, where they fall, and it's a big play downfield. So these are exactly the types of things that you want to see if you are the Bills.
If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. I'm looking for my handy dandy notebook here, and I just found it. I don't want to rip the pages out. I took copious notes today. Like, the internet was not working at Halas Hall. Like, the cell phone reception was not very good. So instead of texting our insiders, I basically just took a whole bunch of notes, and like, boom, I got pages full here. So we got a lot to get to. A little bit of an injury update to start with here too, as well, before we get into a lot of the observations. Tyler Bass is progressing. Sean McDermott says they're hoping that he'll be ready to go by the Tampa Bay Bucks game, which is the final preseason game next week. They're going through this from a progression standpoint, right, Ryan? Like, they're having him kick on one foot, right? Like, they're not trying to have him move too much. You're not going to see him probably kick in practice until next week. They're taking it super slow, which I think makes all the sense in the world. You don't have to rush that. You just want to get him to a place before the start of the season.
Right. 100%. And the end game obviously is to kick in the preseason finale, make sure he feels good going into week 1. They have another kicker on their roster, not named Ray Davis. So they have all bases covered in terms of an emergency option, but the progression sounds encouraging based on what we heard from Sean McDermott practice today. So it seems like Bass will be ready to go next week and definitely by week 1.
Curtis Samuel did the most that he's done to date yet in training camp since his injury. I think the first couple of days there. He didn't take part in team drills, but he's starting to ramp up. I thought it was interesting during individuals, though. He was catching passes from Mitchell Trubisky. If you remember back at the beginning of training camp, he was catching passes from Josh Allen. And so right. I think, you talk about Keon Coleman having a really nice day. Josh Palmer had a couple of catches. I thought this was the best Elijah Moore has looked in this offense. I think they did a lot of different things with him during the practice today. And I think you're going to see that. He's also had an opportunity with Khalil Shakir out to showcase what he can do in the slot, of course. I mean, when they go 11, he trots out there with Keon Coleman and Josh Palmer today. And so I think that puts you in a spot where you have work to do if you're Curtis Samuel. You don't even have to read between the lines. I mean, listen to Sean McDermott talk about him getting back even before practice today. It's like they haven't seen him. They haven't seen what it looks like in this iteration of this offense. I think Curtis Samuel, like the heat's on a little bit over the next couple of days and weeks.
Heat's on 100%. Sean McDermott's comments today about time running out, not having to see him, that is a warning shot of sorts. And I get the cap hit, the dead cap hit, if they were to part ways with him, how difficult it would be to trade him to kind of help in that regard. But availability is so important. As good as he was late last season in the regular season against the Chiefs and playoffs against the Broncos, had a few nice plays in the playoffs overall. You need to be available the entire season, the entire summer. This is 2 summers in a row that have kind of been lost summers for Curtis Samuel. And you have other guys stepping up. Elijah Moore, multiple catches today, as you mentioned. Went back and watched that first preseason game after I got home last weekend, and everyone was talking about the 3rd and 15 play where Trubisky dropped it off to Kincaid. And sure enough, Elijah Moore is running wide open. Probably goes for a touchdown if Trubisky sees him. And the conversation about Moore is much different after that first preseason game, if that's the case. So he's doing good things. Shavers makes a huge play today on special teams. We've seen enough from him at wide receiver. So you have guys stepping up in multiple ways, and then you have Curtis Samuel just sitting there, still rehabbing, still progressing, still not getting out there on the field.
I want to get into the quarterbacks, the backup quarterbacks, in a little while. I thought this was the worst day of the summer for Mike White. And, there was one interception. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Before we get there, let's get back to this defense, because, I thought, somebody asked me this question on Twitter just now. I haven't replied yet because we're doing the show. I'll reply after the show's over, and asked, like, if you had to measure who won the day between the two teams, I definitively say the Bills. I mean, the way that they showed up in the red zone for the most part, in the red zone period defensively, there was a couple of big plays at times. We'll get into a couple of those. But to me, the biggest takeaway defensively was the play of this defensive front. I thought Ed Oliver was really tough to block. I thought Greg Rousseau was the standout of the group. He had 2 sacks on the day, and you really start to see what this thing could look like working alongside Joey Bosa on the other side, right? Like them building chemistry. That was what Greg Rousseau talked about after practice. The 1 sack, it felt like Caleb Williams was running for his life. Greg Rousseau gets the pressure immediately on the play, beats the left tackle. Caleb tries to use his speed, which I think is going to get him into trouble at times, try to get in the outside. Well, you're not running away from Greg Rousseau, especially when he takes the right angle on you. And I almost felt like he had 2 different sacks on the play. He sacked him in the backfield, then he ran him down because they didn't blow it dead. And it almost looked like Caleb Williams was like kind of shrugging his shoulders, like, are you going to stop this play already? Like Greg Rousseau is just absolutely bearing down on me. And the other play was when Bosa was involved, where they met at the quarterback and sacked him. It was interesting. Rousseau wins early, makes the sack. Bosa absolutely busts through his block as well. They meet at the quarterback. And at the end, Bosa kind of gave like a 2-handed shiver of a shove to Caleb Williams. And nobody around there took any issue with it, which is kind of sit back and I'm like, wow, like that's pretty wild to think about. But again, the defensive line really finding a way to make an impact in the joint practice.
Yeah, big time learning lesson, by the way, for the Bears O-line and weapons. I'm sure Ben Johnson will bring that up, and that won't happen again. Got to protect your franchise quarterback, just like the Bills O-linemen over the years have done for Josh Allen. Some guys getting in other players' faces as we've seen, but specifically now talking about the edge rushers. Great days for Greg Rousseau and Joey Bosa. I saw one saying Bosa has at least 2 sacks at one point during the joint practice, flying off the edge. We've seen him in a preseason game. We've seen him dominating the opposition. We're seeing the Bills in a, mind you, not a preseason game, obviously not a regular season game, but winning with their front 4. That's massive. That's always been an issue for this team. It's never been good enough where they can win with their front 4. And if you have Bosa playing at this level come regular season time, Greg Rousseau, who, in my opinion, the Bills, when they gave him that contract, which is a bargain at $20 million a year compared to some of the other big contracts given out at the position this summer, they're projecting him to take that next step this year and become the double-digit sack guy on one side. And Bosa, if healthy, can do the same there. And then on the interior, you have a lot of guys too. Ed Oliver, so tough and can win those one-on-one matchups. You have Daquan Jones, you have Ogunjobi, who we can mention coming back from suspension after 6 weeks, who can be a factor there. TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, the list goes on at the defensive tackle position. And then there's some pretty good depth, by the way, coming off the edge too.
Yeah, and I wanted to go into one specific play that I think I wanted to highlight too. It came against the second team, so you don't want to like overreact too much, but Larry Ogunjobi, Deion Walker, both involved in the play, and Michael Hoyt as well, absolutely blowing up a screenplay. And it comes down to, okay, you get the pressure from Ogunjobi and Walker, right? You get Ogunjobi over to the ball area, and then Hoyt meets him to absolutely blow up the play. And it's like there's levels to it, right? Like there's the first level of the play where you get the pressure, which I thought Deion Walker did a good job of bearing down on the quarterback, making it hard on him, and having to react to that moment right there. Then you have Ogunjobi reading the play properly, getting out into the passing lane, frustrating the running back there, and then Hoyt coming in to blow the play dead. And to me, that's massive. You're not going to have Ogunjobi to start the season for 6 weeks. You're not going to have Hoyt either. So 2/3 of that play is going to be unavailable to the Bills defense. But when they come back, the ability to really affect the way that teams tried to manipulate mismatches against the Bills defense, because let's be honest, that has been a problem for Bobby Babbich's unit last season. You look at how they defend the screenplay, they give up big chunks of yardage at times. So to be able to take that away and to continue to kind of ratchet things up with your defensive line, I think they did a really good job of that today.
Yeah, screen passes and 3rd and longs. Those are 2 areas the Bills have to get better this year. So to see it live in action against another team when it comes to the screens, at least. Certainly an encouraging sign ahead of Sunday's preseason matchup.
Thank you so much for watching. We've got about 1,200 across all platforms right now. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We'll get you into the notebook here as we fly through all of our observations from Bills versus Bears joint practice here at Halas Hall. About an hour outside of downtown Chicago. The Bills will play against the Bears at Soldier Field on Saturday night or Sunday night. Next up, I want to go to kind of a tale of 2 days at cornerback. I think first we start with Christian Benford, who was absolutely locked down, lights out. I mean, he had a couple reps against Rome Odunze that were really, really impressive. And then there's one play where the Bears are driving down. It's a third down play. Odunze goes up and makes a really good catch on the sideline. And before he can come out of bounds, Benford just absolutely rocks him, grabs him in midair, and then throws him out of bounds to basically nullify the play. It's an incomplete pass. He doesn't come down with both feet in bounds. And then a desperation heave during the red zone period to the end zone. Odunze kind of bodies Benford at the beginning of the play, goes up, makes the catch. And as he's coming down with the ball in the end zone, Benford just rips it out. Benford turns around, does his signature call God celebration. They're really yucking it up in front of some of the Bears fans there. And I think Taron Johnson and Trey White come over and dap him up. It was an explosive day for Christian Benford. The kind of road performance from your top cornerback that gets you excited as a Bills fan.
Yeah, and listen, Odunze had an unbelievable practice against some of the other Bills cornerbacks and secondary members, but should come as no surprise that Christian Benford just comes in and locks him down. He's been doing this for years against opposing wide receivers. He has had an unbelievable summer. The Bills have paid him accordingly. Huge things for Christian Benford. This should be the year that he becomes a national household name, because that's just how good he is. And the smarts on the first play that you mentioned, Matt, knowing the rule change from a few years ago where that could have been a force-out touchdown, knowing now that it's not, and hey, if he's near the goal line, I can just kind of grab him and throw him out of bounds and negate the play even if he catches the ball. That's just next level thinking on the fly where a lot of guys wouldn't be able to process it that quickly.
On the other side of things, Tre'Davious White, obviously Maxwell Hairston, he did make the trip. Sean McDermott said earlier this week that he is making some progress. He's off the crutches. He's walking around. That's a good sign. We'll see once he kind of appears on the sideline and starts to work off the side during practice. That'll be another big indicator of his progress, but still a ways away for the rookie cornerback who's dealing with the knee injury. Trey White, CB2. That's where we're at. We saw it last week in the first preseason game. We'll likely see it again this week, depending on how much the starters play. And Sean's still working through his plan for Sunday. I think the results of today's joint practice was going to determine a lot of that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some veterans in this game on Sunday based on the work that they did in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Josh Allen at all this preseason based on how Sean McDermott kind of talked about it today. But in terms of Tre'Davious White, I thought the coverage in the first preseason game wasn't a huge issue. I thought the tackling was something that, you left something to be desired. Today, he got absolutely burned by, I believe it was Zacchaeus on a crossing pattern where, sure, there's a lot of traffic that you kind of got to get through when you're working in the middle of the field, but you've got to find a way to stay with your guy to at least make a play on it. Taylor Rapp, he comes involved in the play, takes a bad angle on the play, completely misses the receiver who blows it to the outside and blows by everybody and goes for a touchdown. That was like a 40-yard touchdown. I think that was probably the worst play that the defense made on the day. And, if you're Tre'Davious White, if you're the Bills, you want him to at least affect the play or at least hold it up long enough to get somebody else into the play. He wasn't able to do it on that play. And, I think that for as good as he's played this summer, those are the kinds of plays where I think I'm worried a little bit, but then he comes back later in practice and makes you forget about it a little bit. A really good one-on-one rep in the red zone, the 10 yards and in line against Rome Odunze, a young, powerful, fast wide receiver, big wide receiver. He goes man-to-man coverage and completely takes him out of the play, so much so that Caleb Williams has to kind of go to his second read. He was really zeroed in on that matchup, and that's what's going to happen. they're going to zero in on that matchup with Christian Benford on the other side. White took it away. Williams went to go to his second read, and the pressure was in his face. He had to throw it to the ground to a receiver out in the flat, and that's a big-time play for Trey White. So some bad, some good, a little bit of a mixed bag. The depth of the cornerback room, I thought Dane Jackson struggled today. Jamarcus Ingram struggled today. Beyond Christian Benford, the cornerback Dorian Strong got beat on one play in particular. It wasn't great across the board, but I thought that was a big-time play for Trey White in the red zone.
Yeah, I'm not ready to hit the panic button on Trey White yet after a preseason game and a practice today, but there's some areas that you want to see improvements on, and giving a lot of space in the first preseason game, which allowed a lot of receptions. The tackling might just be a case of it's preseason. I'm not going in there and going to, go at 100%, although come regular season time, you want to be ready to tackle when it really does matter. And then the big touchdown today. There have been some letdown moments in the last week plus where I'm hoping if he does suit up on Sunday night against the Bears, we see him make a play or two. And come regular season time, though, I mean, he's going to be in a spot to start against the Baltimore Ravens. And you already said it. They know Christian Benford is a lockdown type of cornerback, and they might take a shot or two in his direction. But for the most part, there's going to be a lot of balls thrown Trey White's way, and it's going to be up to him to either, make a play on the ball. So either they have to go to another option, maybe go with the tight ends across the middle, whatever the case may be. But if he keeps giving up the space and keeps giving up the receptions, it could make for a very long night in week one.
One note, I know that Sean McDermott has come out and said that they're still kind of figuring things out with Jordan Hancock, but I think it's pretty definitive at this point that they're eyeing him to play safety. He played only at safety again today, and it was a mixed bag for him too. Like there's some moments where he's very competitive. I think on special teams, I thought he was super physical. Had a couple reps as a gunner, and I thought that he kind of stood out in that department just with his physicality. But one play to 84, which hang on a second, handy dandy roster card here. Colston Loveland, the rookie. There was a couple of plays from him today where he had a touchdown in red zone, and I thought it was Hancock who was in coverage, just not diagnosing the play fast enough, not playing fast enough out there. He was kind of a step behind. If he gets back to the second level a little bit quicker after I think it was a play action pass, he probably gets in the throwing lane and impacts Caleb Williams' decision to throw it to Loveland. He doesn't get there quick enough. He doesn't fade back fast enough. And because of that, Williams rips one over the middle, and it's an easy touchdown for Loveland. Like, those are the moments. It's practice, right? Like, Of course you want him to make that play, but I also think like you're going to get that back on the film in the film room with Joe Dana and Bobby Babich and go over that play. And now maybe take it to Sunday when he gets his reps in the game and maybe he's able to make a play or get to the spot a little bit quicker and force the quarterback to go in another direction. And those are going to be the kind of moments where he's really evaluated on in terms of how quickly he's ready to be thrown in there at safety. And I'm not sitting here saying that Jordan Hancock's going to beat out Cole Bishop for a starting job or anything like that. But because of the, injury situation with both of those guys, with Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop, and their inability to stay on the field, if one of them goes down at some point, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they trust DeMar Hamlin. He's still playing, I would say, over Jordan Hancock. But Hancock has gotten thrown into a lot of different plays. I think he's quietly the number 4 safety right now and creeping his way up the depth chart. And those little plays and how he responds to them is going to probably play into how quickly he can rise.
Yeah, Sean McDermott tried to pump the brakes on Hancock a little bit this week when asked about him, saying, no, he still has a long ways to go in terms of learning. And that's true. I mean, for every rookie, there's a huge learning curve. But if you were to ask me, which 3 players played the fastest out on the field against the Giants in the first preseason game, he would 100% be in that list. He was playing free, playing loose, and that allowed him to make a lot of plays in that game. And the natural ability and athletic talent that he brings is a little bit different than, much different than what they have in DeMar Hamlin, who, knows the system, is a steady presence. But this is something where he can develop into a game-changing type of safety, in my opinion. That's how high I think of his game from Ohio State and how it can translate to the NFL. We've seen the flashes. We know all about the injuries. Wouldn't shock me, like you said, if he had to get thrown out into the fire at some point this year with all the injuries that they've dealt with this summer and the history of Taylor Rapp and the way he plays so physical, and Cole Bishop just not knowing if he's a player that can stay healthy. And it's such a small sample size, but it's 2 summers in a row now that he's been limited with injuries. He might be thrown into the fire. And based on the athletic ability alone, I think that in time, yes, there'll be some plays where he gets beat, but I also think there's some times where he could really shine and show that he is the future of that position.
I'm using my cell phone camera as the camera for this episode, so that's why I kind of keep looking down at my computer. And I'm so worried because the last time I did this, it went down during the thing, and I don't know if I would just lose video or if it would go to my computer, and the computer camera is like looking right up at me from the couch cushion. This is road life, right, Ryan? We're making the best out of it. We're getting after it. Almost 2,000 people watching across all platforms. We love you. I was walking through Halas Hall today, and I think 3 different Bills fans stopped me to say, big fan of Shout. Love you and Ryan Talbot. And I got to tell you, it warms my heart every time that happens, man. We really appreciate all of your support here on the podcast, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, unbelievable. We were just recently at Wingnuts this week doing something, and I was walking in, and someone said, oh, well, who's here doing this? And then they looked and they said, oh, it's Talbot. I love you and Parrino and Shout. And then we talked with them. They were in from Florida. So we appreciate all the Shout listeners, our insiders, our readers, you name it. We have the best fans in the NFL.
All right. Tyrell Shavers time. And this is not a wide receiver recap. I know we've spent a lot of time on the podcast talking about him as a receiver. The big thing about Shavers is going to be, can he play special teams? And there was a moment today during the gunner drill portion of practice. And this to me was when the energy and the vibes like went off the chart. At one point, Dorian Williams got into it with one of the Bears special teamers, and Williams, it was a scuffle. Like the entire Bills sideline kind of piled onto this guy. Dorian Williams like drove him into the ground. Like the intensity level was through the roof. And Shavers did his gunner drill where he had to kind of run through 2 cover men for the Bears, and he had just exploded through both of them. So much so that Dawson Knox and Deion Dawkins came firing out onto the field, like getting pumped up and support. Like this is what he's going to have to do to make this team. I know a lot of people are talking about him as a 5th or 6th wide receiver. If they keep Samuel and Moore, maybe he could be the 6th wide receiver. Well, yeah, maybe he could be if they end up taking 6. If he's going to be a gunner, now you're kind of putting him into a separate category alongside a Brandon Codrington or Laviska Shenault, whoever ends up making it to return kicks. That's value there. And that's something that you could maybe push him across the finish line. He was really good in special teams today.
And that's massive because Sean McDermott took a question on Shavers following the Giants preseason game, and he said, we know what Shaves can do as a wide receiver, but what he can do on special teams is really going to go away a long way into their final determination. So to have him have such a good day in the joint practice, that's going to be something that's going to stand out on film. And it's going to be tough to crack this roster for a lot of players. But Shavers has now made his case as a receiver, and he's starting to really show what he can do on special teams as well.
David mentions it here in the comments. I sent it out to the insiders already. He had a drop in one-on-ones or in 7-on-7. Shavers did there. You're like, oh man, you're going to want to erase that from the film room because it was a bad spot. Allen really struggled in 7-on-7, and I thought that was his best ball of the session. And when Shavers dropped it, it was almost like, oh man, like it set up the rest of the session for some really bad moments. Jaquan Brisker, the Bears' really talented safety, was awesome during that portion of practice. Had a couple of pass breakups. He was in the neighborhood defending when Kevin Baird, the other safety, ended up picking off Josh Allen during 7-on-7. So a lot of different big time plays from that Bears defense in 7-on-7. It didn't transition into the 11-on-11 very much, though. I mean, I felt like the Bills offense really was able to have their way. Joshua Palmer had a touchdown. And then, I got a couple of linebacker notes, and we got to talk about wide receivers as well. But just the way the Bills responded to me from that 7-on-7, the starters, especially to 11-on-11, I wanted to make that note and get that in on Shavers.
All right. Yeah. Well, I do want to get into this linebacker talk. I know what you shared with the insiders, and it's more of the same, and that being great news for a veteran that you and I had some questions about going into this summer.
Matt Milano is back, man. Like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but dude, he looks like the guy I remember watching in 2023 when he was absolutely playing some of his best football of his career. He's been that guy all summer long. I mean, he made a play today where I think it was a slot wide receiver, Zacchaeus or one of those other guys, the little wide receivers, made a little move in the short area. Caleb Williams immediately saw him in his progression, got it out to him really quickly. And Milano had good coverage, but the kid got some separation on him, and Milano had to kind of react quickly. He shoots to the ball, dude, and makes this huge pass breakup. It was absolutely electric. And I thought Milano made a couple of plays throughout practice. Terrell Bernard, though, with the boom hit stick, man, it was really, really impressive. Let me see where I can find it. He destroyed Colston Loveland at the goal line, and it would have been a touchdown, and he comes in and just absolutely busts him up. I wrote in my notes here, put your earmuffs over the kids at home. Holy shit. That's what I wrote in my notes, because it was that big of a thud hit from Terrell Bernard. And listen, he's been out for a big chunk of training camp. The linebackers were flying around in 11-on-11, especially in red zone today. They showed up and made some really big time plays.
If those two stay healthy, they're going to be one of the best linebacker units in the NFL. Bernard has shown how special of a player he is in terms of diagnosing plays on the fly, knowing where to be in terms of the windows where the quarterback is trying to get the ball. We know he can blitz, good against the run. It's just about the size and the durability there. But when he's on the field, huge difference maker. Matt Milano, you're right. To say he's back seems appropriate based on the summer that he's had, the performance he had today. And that makes me very happy for Milano, because obviously the Bills, they reworked his deal, and this is the last year of it. So if he has the type of season that we've seen from this summer and it carries over, the Bills are either going to pay him a good chunk of change to come back, or he's going to be paid, elsewhere a good amount of money because of just how dynamic he can still be.
My beautiful wife, who just got her hair done, sent me a picture, and I was gawking at that on the way back to the hotel room. One of our fans here, Man of War, says, how many hair products does Matt have? Just one, buddy. Right here. Lay Right Cement. I'll tell you right now, if you got like a hairstyle that you want to get locked in, this is the best product. I'm shouting out to Lay right now. Dude, sponsor the podcast, man. There is nobody that will put over this product like I will. I've been using this product now since 2015, 2016. So 10 years. And I don't put anything else in my hair other than that. And every single time it does the job. I was out in the wind, the elements, the heat, the mugginess, the humidity. This thing didn't move all day, Talbot.
No, you and me both. We both use it, never have a hair out of place. So it's a testament to Lay Right. So Lay Right, if you're watching, Matt Parrino, Ryan Talbot, proud users of your product, never a hair out of place.
All right, let's get to these backup quarterbacks, Talbot. Yikes. I mean, I don't know how much more we have to go. Mike White threw an interception today to a linebacker. He was eyeing down Caden Prather, who's back from the hamstring injury, and eyeing him down. It was so crazy because from our angle, you could see it perfectly through like a lens, it was unbelievable. Like that he would even decide to throw the ball. He throws it looking for Prather. It goes right directly to the linebacker's hands. He picks it off. I can't remember if that was the one that they returned for a touchdown. They returned one for a touchdown on one of the backups. I think that might have been Trubisky. Oh, no. That was Trubisky to Zach Davidson, who fumbled the ball, and number 30 for the Bears recovered it and ran it back for a touchdown. So not great for the second and third team there as the Bills were going through 11-11. I was talking how much the Bills' first team offense really recovered. The backups did it. And, Trubisky made a play or two, but for the most part, both of them weren't great. But it was so bad for Mike White at times in this practice. You start to think about like all of the headway that he seemed to make throughout the summer. A day like this, I feel like kind of pegs him back down a little bit.
And even after, again, Hard Knocks, which hasn't had anything hard hitting, but you could hear the commentary from Josh Allen and Joe Brady about the type of summer Mike White was having, slinging the ball and things like that. But he's taken a step back these last 2 weeks, in my opinion. I thought he was outperforming Trubisky at training camp the days that I was in attendance. But I thought Trubisky came out ahead of him in the first preseason game. It sounds like Trubisky made a few more plays, and mind you, still being a more of a down day than anything for Trubisky, but made more plays today. And if in this preseason game, White doesn't really, have a huge game and Trubisky kind of stays that status quo where he's been, it's going to be hard for him to beat him out for quarterback 2.
Man, this has been a ton of fun already. We got a big game to cover on Sunday. A lot of ground is going to be made here over the next couple of days in terms of putting things together, piecing things together with that final 53-man roster projection. I'm sure both Ryan and I will have ones coming out over the next week or two. When are you thinking for yours? Let's do.
Actually, I think I'm going to do it after the second preseason game. So,
all right.
Monday or Tuesday this upcoming week, I'll have one out.
All right, so make sure you head over to Amtrak.com right now. Make sure you book your next trip throughout New York State, jumping on a train, free Wi-Fi, no baggage fees. Kids ride 50% off, Ryan. You cannot beat that deal. Head over to Amtrak.com and hook it up. It's a great time.
Yeah, can't beat Amtrak. Check it out. Spacious, Wi-Fi, no middle seats, you name it. A lot of perks with Amtrak.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. My conversation with Mike Sando on his quarterback tier list, that'll drop tomorrow. Recorded that with him yesterday. I knew we were going to do this pod today, so that'll come tomorrow. And then, boom, we'll be right back on Sunday. So enjoy your weekend. Man, the regular season, we're almost there, Ryan Talbot. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon, everybody.